Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Tea Party. I'm Gabe. This is Monica. That's Hannah, and this is Ramsey. And today we are here at the Fairfield Solano Community College campus, and we are going to focus on topics about false accusations. So today, our first segment is going to be the different history and statistics about false accusations. All right, so I'm going to start off by talking about this press release I found from the Center for Prosecutor Integrity by Rebecca Stewart on December 17th, 2020. In this press release, it talks about the different types of false accusations, so the different crimes that kind of go into it. So things like rape, sexual assault, child abuse, domestic violence, and even some smaller things like theft or robbery. And it kind of talks about different statistics with how there are different demographics. So both men, women are affected by this, and different races. So African American, Asians, Middle Eastern, and even people of Caucasian descent. Everyone has had some type of like thing with false accusations, and it's not just a thing that a certain demographic fits into. And this is been a really big problem for a little bit in our nation, but it's kind of gotten even worse lately.
Yeah, so with my research, I went with the End of Violence of Women's Nationality. With this report or statistics, this lady, Kimberly S., she did a statistic showing how a lot of men and women are getting accused of rape and violence towards other people, and they're getting falsely accused. And with the statistics, it also just showed that it's not just men getting accused, but it's also women. A lot of people are putting a lot of these people that are getting accused of these rape or violence situations are, sometimes in relationships or half relationships, meaning that they're texting each other or something like that, and they're saying all these stuff over text, and then when they come in person and then they actually have an argument or something like that, they get falsely accused of this. I believe 4.8% of people are in jail right now are falsely accused of rape or any of these type of violence towards them. Most of the time, these people are getting these falsely accused because they meet somebody at a party, or someone is interacting with them and they get to know them, and then randomly they hate each other, and then there's when they go to jail for falsely accused or something like that. And then also a lot of people are not understanding that this could ruin someone's career in life like that, and sometimes they go for celebrities or people with fame, and they pretty much try to target them just because they have the fame and they want fame or money, and maybe it's a way for them to show people that they're out there, but it's not the best way to do it, just because you're putting other people's life at risk, putting them in jail, and then also they could lose a big part of their life and being in jail for many years, because these convictions aren't just 1 year or 2 years. Like, this could be centuries, it could be years on life for them, and they could lose reality, and then when they come back to life, to the world, they don't know how to live anymore. Like you said, a lot of people are getting charged for this, and they don't know how to live after that.
Yeah, I would like to bounce off that thought. I also did some digging. I found a Visco article by Janine Farsi, and basically she was discussing in her article how these accusations became more and more appearing. They began to pop up more. They became normal during the time period beginning in COVID, so 2019. These accusations began on higher professional people, basically.
Yeah.
And it did point to the same as what Ramsey was discussing. A lot of this could be fame. Like, people are trying to find and pick off fame from other people by making these accusations. But my thing is, these people falsely accused, but nothing is to come of it. They don't really do much digging, and it's hard to find information, and it's hard to argue against these accusations because sometimes there's no proof.
So over the span of time, there have been a lot of false allegations, and it has risen significantly. And a lot of these claims, as you guys have said, is for revenge or just to get fame. But to give you an estimate of kind of how badly this has risen. So there was a data collection where in 2009 it was a study, and it lasted from 18 to 24 months, and it was different types of police cases. I think in total it was over 2,000 police cases that they were looking at, but they were keeping track of them. And over those 2,000 cases, they noticed that 140 of them were false accusations, and it went from things like domestic violence, robbery, anything like that. And seeing 140 over out of those 2,000, they got the idea that it was around 7% that were false claims. And then according to David Lisa, on December 16, 2010 on Public Med, there was a Northeastern University who was pretty much conducting their own studies, and they kind of like got inspired based off of that. And it was a full university that was doing the study. This one lasted over 10 years though, and it was of 136 cases that they were focusing completely on over those 10 years. And out of the 136, 8 of them were reported to be false accusations, which was 5.9. And just seeing the difference in these percentages, because the first one was 7% and then this one was 5.9, close to 6%, they do drop, they do rise. But as we're gonna see over the course of our podcast, we're gonna be able to see that these are just getting worse and worse over time.
And even though it is like getting worse and worse over time, like you said, there have been different laws that have been introduced to try and stop false accusations. So in New York, there's an example known as the anti-Karen law. It is spelled CAREN, which is caution against racial exploitative non-emergencies, and pretty much is just the idea that people can't call against someone just because they're another race. And then even on things like the university system, people that complain to universities, if they are found false, they can, or knowingly false, they can be kicked out or even just disciplined on the UC system. Did we have anyone else that wanted to add on, or do we want to move on to our next?
Yeah, I agree a little bit. And some of these, like it's going to be discussed later, it's really hard to kind of pinpoint these, and it's really hard to prevent people from finding a way out of these laws.
Okay, so now that we have gone over the different statistics and history of false accusations, now let's move on to the specific examples that we can find and the impacts that they have had on these people's lives.
So the person I researched was Sean Oakman. He was a very great linebacker at Baylor. He first did go to Penn State, but he redshirted, so he transferred over. Oakman, he attended a party at Waco, Texas, I believe with all his defensive linemen classmates. He went there just to enjoy his time and, just enjoy with his, linemen before going to a game. And after the game, he was accused of raping a girl there. I forgot her name. I think she did change her name after the trial. But she changed her name. She reported Oakman that he raped him or raped her at the party, and after that he was arrested at the campus and then also shamed by the media. I mean, obviously he was a great linebacker at
Mhm.
Baylor, and he was gonna be probably in the first round of the NFL. But that all got taken away because he was falsely accused by this lady. Um, she pretty much during the trial was saying that all these stuff about him, because they did have interaction over text over Instagram, and that's kind of how they got to meet at that party. And then during that party, I believe she said that they had a little altercation, pretty much fighting about it something. And then after that party, she told her friends that she was gonna pretty much put this charge on him and pretty much give him a false accusation of him raping her. And from that, Oakman lost all his degree at Baylor, couldn't return to the campus anymore, couldn't apply for the NFL draft anymore. And so he pretty much lost everything. He was jailed for, I believe, a month until the trial was going on, and that trial did last for 3 years. And I believe now he is working on himself at the CFL. I think it's like just a lower grade before the NFL, and he is working on there. I know he is playing for a team right now. I'm not too sure if he's going into the NFL yet. I know that it takes a long time for him to come back and try to get back into that. But his life was taken away from it. His career and making even money for his family. That's kind of why he went into that. There's a documentary on it, how the only reason he played football was for his family, and someone taking that away from him, that sucks, and he can't go back to that anymore.
Yeah, I would like to bounce off that thought. I also researched someone, and I came along with the name Amy Winehouse, who was a popular artist during the 90s, early 2000s. Really, she was broadcast everywhere. And at this time, she was performing at a concert of hers, and a lady had approached her, basically asking, "Hey, can I get a picture? I'm your biggest fan, yeah, whatnot." And at this time, obviously, she just had a concert, so she did decline the offer. And because of Amy declining her offer for a picture, the lady did basically lunge at her and wrap her arms around her and try to be pried off of her by security. After this, obviously Winehouse did kind of push her off of her, kind of self-defense. Anyone in that circumstance would do that, and honestly, I would have done that. But for me, I did research more into it, and the woman that had lunged at Winehouse did accuse her of punching her in the eye, which was never videotaped or anything, but she had enough information and enough on her claim to go to court, where she claimed that after she had asked for a picture, she tried to give Winehouse a hug, but did lunge at her. What I had dug into, it was a CNN report by Adicio Martinez, where he was basically discussing and he was giving an overall result to the case, and he picked apart her claims in court, where she did claim she's a 5'2" woman, very slender, very skinny, and a woman who is 5'7", lunging at you, jumping at you. Obviously, you would have done something to protect yourself. You never know what could have happened in that circumstance. So she admitted in court she did shove her, but there was no video proof or footage, but enough to discredit her as a celebrity. She lost millions of fans even after the case had resulted in an unguilty charge for Amy. She did lose thousands of fans, and this carried onto the internet, social media, and she did look bad at the time.
If I saw a 5'7" big female coming at me, I'm also running. Well, not running.
Doing
No,
something to
actually,
protect yourself.
I am running.
Yeah.
She was at least good enough to push her. I would be running. I'd be out of there. The whole concert is over. Okay. But on mine, what I found was, according to Rebecca Stewart on Central for Prosecution Integrity, there was which was done on September 6, 2022. During 2016, and October 15, there was a party for college kids, And obviously, they're in college, so they're gonna do it off of the university to not get in trouble and not break anything. And at that party, there was a girl named Nikki Yoving, and she was, like every other girl there. They were chatting it up. Everyone was drinking and stuff. And, at any college party, there's people making out and stuff. She had intercourse with two guys there. They were both football players at the university. And so she came out of the bathroom. I'm trying to remember, but she did come out of the bathroom and she went straight to her friends. And she told them how she was raped and assaulted and that she didn't want this, And obviously, as concerned friends should be, they took her immediately to the hospital just in case, anything was damaged or anything. And at the hospital, you have to give an explanation to what happened and stuff like that. So they performed a rape kit test on her. And the next day, they went to the police station and they filed, a sexual assault report on the two boys. And this report was later to be known as false. She did say that it was false and that she made it because at the time she was having issues with her boyfriend. Now, the article didn't really go much into like what connection there was with these football players with her and her boyfriend. It could have been, out of revenge, or it could have been just to get back together because they were having issues, so it was kind of like a little like victim that could have like happened, but none of that is known for sure why that happened. And these two guys, they pretty much completely lost everything. They lost their football, their football career, and then they also lost the opportunity to stay at that university because they, after finding out the university revoked their admissions, and they were pretty much done for. And after finding out that she had lied, one of them was able to reinstate back into the college. I think it was like in 2019 he was able to go back, but he wasn't given his scholarship for football, which is what he had before. So not only did they take away, his admission to the university, but they also took away the financial aid that allowed him to keep going to that university and a career that he loved very much. So that was what was going on with this one guy. And the other guy, he ended up just not going back to the university in total because they never believed him, And when trust like that is broken, like if you don't trust me, then why should I come back? It's not like you're going to trust me a second time if this does happen. And as we have stated, all of us, these accusations are just getting worse and worse. So what's to say that, he doesn't have bad luck and that happens one more time? But he did stop going to the university and he developed high levels of anxiety and PTSD from the case. And he now works in the film industry, but he has said it himself that it's been very hard because he hasn't known who he can trust, who was actually there to support him, because when you get an allegation like that, pretty much everyone turns their back on you. And it was just a very hard time for both of them. The girl did end up getting, I think it was 1 year in jail and 2 years on probation, but looking at the justice, viewpoints, I guess justice was served in a way, but looking at the victims, justice was not served for them because she completely defamed them, and building up, your reputation and your image, it definitely took a lot more than 1 year, which is all that she had to pretty much repay. So it was definitely something that I didn't really enjoy reading, but it is something that is happening out there in the world.
Yeah. To like follow up on your guys' different examples, one of the biggest impacts of these different false accusations is the effect it has on people's reputations. So many people in history and on the internet have lost just fame or seen as these horrible people just because someone says something else about them that's not necessarily true. This isn't like the only impact that it can have on people's lives though. And I found this out while reading an NPR article by Jacelyn Diaz on October 21st, 2024. This article was about a case known as the Central Park Joggers case, or the Central Park Five. So on April 20th, 1989, a woman was found beat nearly to death in Central Park. And 5 men were arrested because of this. So Antron McCrae, Kevin Richardson, Raymond Santana, Corey Wise, and Yusuf Salam were detained and taken in by police because of this woman. While she didn't actually do anything to get them arrested, they just found different evidence that was pointing towards them. But the thing is that they weren't actually the ones who committed the crime, because they were accused of raping and beating her almost to death. And after they did their sentences in prison, because they were imprisoned, the actual offender, whose name was Matthias Reyes, who was a serial rapist, admitted to the crime, and his DNA was actually found on the crime scene. And this makes it so these 5 men were put into prison for no good reason, because even though they were seen to have done this, the justice system didn't fully investigate and didn't do a good enough job in figuring out who actually did it. And instead, they kind of just got rid of 5 innocent people. And this is kind of another impact where the justice system doesn't really go in and take account that they are putting innocent people into jail, which is much different than just a reputation being tarnished, because they lose their freedom. And this kind of brings up the ideas of, are they really are people that are getting falsely accused really getting what they deserve? And do you guys have any more thoughts on any examples or the impacts, or should we move on to our lesson?
Yeah, I agree. My point with this whole thing is the Central Park Five. People are suffering not just consequential kind of reputational. People like those like you had said, Gabe, they're beaten to halfway to death just so they could say, oh yeah, I did it. And not only is it that, but it's like Monica brought up, it's the PTSD, it's the mental strain that you're putting, and you're basically ruining people's lives. And after that point, they can't pick up their life. They can't be oh, I'm guilty, I'm not guilty now, I could just live the rest of my life. There's so much employers, so much schools. I'm sure for the 2 that Monica researched, one of them going to other schools, it's hard to find schools that are willing to take you after a reputational devastation they face. It's really hard.
Yeah. Anyone else?
Yeah, going back to everyone talking about being famous or not. A lot of these people that are convicted, even if they're not famous, people are gonna see that. It's all documented. A lot of it sometimes is broadcasted, and when it's broadcasted, a lot of these people, they want to live their life again, even though they're not convicted guilty. To them, they feel guilty.
Yeah.
And sometimes they might not want to live anymore. Sometimes people take their life, and I feel like if they were to take their life, the people that have convicted them should get convicted of murder or something like that. Just because they put so much pressure and so much, I guess, guilty against them, that they end up ending their life and stuff like that. I feel like it's not right for them. And especially even with the people that are popular with celebrities, like she said, Monica said that a lot of these people, they lose their scholarship and stuff, and so that's someone's life. It's not just a game or anything. It's their life. And also what Hannah said, the lady losing millions of followers, that's her life. That's how she makes an income. That's how she makes music and stuff like that. And if she was to end her life, what would we have to say? We can't take any of the I guess, misleading information away. It's information that was given by the person that was saying that she got raped or convicted of violence towards her. And when they're gone, like there's not really much we could say towards them.
Yeah. That helps bring us to our last segment, actually, because in our last segment, we are going to be focusing on if different false accusations happen, what should the consequences of this be? And that kind of brings me into a few questions. Like, what do you guys believe? How do you guys believe they should be charged? And do you think, what should the punishments for these be?
So, something that I found was, according to Charles Dolan on October 8, 2024, I found this on the congress.gov, so I did think that it was very reliable. And it's pretty much laws that are already set in place for stuff like this. So there is a sentencing that you can get, and for false accusation you can get it up to 5 years. But as we have seen, a lot of these people have not been getting up to 5 years. So it just brought me to a question of what is making, their trials so short, their sentence so short. Because it says that you can go up to 5 years, and then you can go up to 8 years if it's something as bad as like lying about human trafficking or child abuse and stuff like that. So I did do a little bit more of research on that same source, and I found that there are like 3 main common ways, but there are a lot of ways that these people they can get away with this. One of them is that what they're lying about doesn't really concern the actual case. So let's say that someone asks you like, where were you, who was there, right? And let's say you bring up a name, right, and it was like the person who was sexually assaulting you, or who robbed you. Obviously there are many ways to go around that, because it can be like, oh, I lied because that all happened super fast and I just wasn't in my right conscience, so a name just kind of popped up and I couldn't really figure out who. So that right there is a way that these victims have gotten away with it. Another one is that, again, going back, the person doesn't know that their claim was false. Can be for mental reasons or stuff like that, but they don't know that their claim is false. And there was another one that it was an illegal interrogation, can lead to pretty much it drops everything, because it is no longer considered a case. Because an illegal interrogation looks very bad upon the jurisdictional system, and no one is allowed to do that, because everyone should read you their rights, the Miranda rights. I couldn't remember, but everyone's supposed to read that to you. And if the officer does not read that to you, then it is considered an illegal interrogation, and it is no longer valid in any court case at all, which I thought was kind of like, whoa, because it does make sense, because I guess it is illegal in a way. But at the same time, how can we just drop a case just like that because we didn't read rights, And when you think about the crime, a lot of these crimes are very serious, and a lot of the big issue is evidence. Evidence is pretty much, they're lacking in one place, so they're trying to fill the evidence from somewhere else. Like in Gabe's case, they pretty much were like, oh, you're gonna say this and that, and you're gonna take responsibility. And in mine, they only were able to go off, the fact that there was the 2 guys' DNA was inside of her, right? That's what they found. So it's also just the fact of lack of evidence, because no one could, we don't know if there was people who actually witnessed that, or if these people have ever actually crossed each other whatsoever, So it's just the lack of evidence that is pretty much making these crimes able to continue being false allegations. And I think that should completely stop, because it is getting really, really bad. And one simple allegation, whether it's to a female or to a male, it can completely ruin your figure, especially now with social media. When you guys were talking about followers, I think it was Hannah. I remember it wasn't that long ago. I think it was like a month ago. There was this DoorDash girl on TikTok.
yeah.
Right? And because I don't want to be controversial, but because she was a female, everyone believed her. Even I believed her. I was like, oh my goodness, like you being a DoorDash and you got like, I think she said sexually assaulted, but then she was like dumb enough to post the actual video, and it showed that she was the one invading his privacy and all that, and it's just like in a matter of seconds before that second video came out, the guy lost his job. He was getting bashed on the internet. And then once that second video came out, she was the one getting bashed,
Yeah.
But everyone pretty much was focusing on her. But what about the guy who lost his job? What about the guy whose like entire, privacy of his home is now out there on the media because she decided to record that, right? And now everyone knows him as this person. And a lot of times for men, their cases aren't really looked at because they're men. We have standards for them. There are social standards that a man's like supposed to like this, and they can't get raped and this and that. But as we have seen from that video, and it is on TikTok, it's still up. Everyone has been reposting it everywhere. So you can just check it out. It is the DoorDash girl. Just put that in there and you'll get it. But, there's just like so many things that, oh, I won't believe you because there's too many false allegations. And, oh, I won't believe you because you're a man, And everything is just hitting each other. And it's making it very hard to get the people who actually need to be in jail into jail. And having, the people who are doing false accusations, they're kind of just like bringing up all these stereotypes of like, oh, all you do is lie and this and that, and it's just been horrible.
Yeah. And to follow up on that, according to like the Gallo Law Office article by James Gallo on March 25th, 2025, it talks about like how victims of false accusations can also file and sue people for defamation. Defamation is pretty much just a statement made about someone that can ruin their reputation, which has been like a lot of the things we've been talking about. There are actually two types. One is slander, and one is libel. And slander is a spoken one, while the latter is a written one. And pretty much what this means is that people that are falsely accused can actually go and defend themselves. But it does need a lot. Like the statement needs to be proven false, and that there was intent to harm. And this is kind of why that a lot of these defamation cases end up being like really hard to prove, because you need to like prove that it was like harmful and it like was malicious. And it's really hard to do that because a lot of people can just be like, no, I just didn't know. But that's really hard to like figure out if they're lying or not. And that kind of brings in like criminal charges like perjury and false calls to the police, because both of those are illegal. And if it is found out, that will actually give people jail time or fines, not jail time, while it also affects the person being accused. And because of this, I do believe that people should be actually given like more jail time, like you said, for giving false accusations, because you are pretty much like messing with someone's life by saying lies and spreading rumors about them, which makes it really hard for them to live, like you said earlier. And because of this, more action should be taken, but to be fair, it is also really hard to figure out how to do that. And yeah, do you guys have any?
I would like to add that and kind of bounce off Monica a little bit. Like, even with the DoorDash girl, like, she still to this day will say all over the internet, I'm the victim. Like, what do you mean? I'm the victim. I lost my job. But I'm like, girl, be for real. No, because the guy even posted his Ring camera.
Yeah.
Like, the guy had a Ring camera posted. And even then, people still, like, why are you laying with no clothes on? Why are you doing this? Why are you that? I'm like, the door was literally like creaked open like this much, and she pushed the door open. So obviously there has to be something against her. Like, she should be charged, because this guy, his life's ruined at this point. He can't get a job, like all of this stuff, and even people against him. It's hard to come off of that stuff like that. And even agreeing a little bit with what Monica was saying before and what you said, Gabe, like these things are so belittled. Like, people want to give like, oh, 1 year to 5 years, but you ruined someone's entire life. So why should you have to give even a smallest portion of your life when you ruined someone's entire life? You know, like even the Central Park Five, like they were basically beaten to death. I'm sure they have health consequences at that point because of how they are beaten and treated. You cause someone's life to be ruined, but you only serve 5 years. Like, I do believe that this should be taken more seriously. Like, they should be even close to 10 years, a bigger fine. And even some people lie under oath, and it seems so little. Like, they don't pay much of a fine as these people that are being accused do.
And that DoorDash incident, that's like a perfect incident for this, especially like, she walked into this guy's house to record him, whether what he was doing was wrong. It's his house, that's his property. And she walked in, and even on the DoorDash it said leave at door, but she didn't leave it at door. She went inside the house and pretty much went into this guy's privacy and pretty much seen him with no pants on, and that's where she probably got like, she's the victim, but like he's pretty much getting recorded, while he's taking a nap with his pants down. And I feel like, that's pretty weird, especially for her even going on social media posting that, she's the victim and stuff like that. And that goes with just everything. A lot of people are getting wrongfully convicted because there's not a lot of evidence that the people are posted, and they have evidence also, like, hey, I didn't do this. And I feel like a lot of people shy away from that because they don't want to be part of it and then be looked weird when they are maybe convicted, of rape or something like that. And I feel like we should help that, like a lot. I mean, now with social media, people can post this and get backlash, especially for that lady that did it with the DoorDash. And I feel like we're working on that better, more just with social media. And I know social media has a bad platform, but now it has good platforms too with helping people. Obviously that guy probably can't get a job or something he wants to do now just because he's on social media with his pants down and stuff like that, and it's just like kind of a look for him now. But I feel like if we could help him in the sense of like, showing that, the evidence that we have of, she was in the wrong and all these other people that were convicted wrong, these people did nothing wrong, like they're just living life. And, that's how we all are. But, sometimes people want to change that and pretty much charge someone for something that they didn't do.
Like, even then, like, there's clear evidence right in front of everyone's face. Like, why did you have to post it? Like, that my thing is like, why did you post it? That itself should be enough as evidence, as it is, to be sued or convicted of defamation. Like, he basically gave you clear instructions: leave the bag at the door. You, being as kind of nosy as it is, want to open a cracked door, go in, and now this guy has to lose the rest of his life and suffer having his profession taken away from him simply just because you didn't want to listen to instruction. And my thing is, like, even looking at it, I actually researched a little bit. They did know each other at one point. Like, they did go to college together. They knew each other at one point. So my thing is, like, you do know these people, and just because you don't like this person or because X, Y, and Z, like, you want to ruin the rest of their life, honestly, you deserve to lose your job. Like, what do you mean? Like, there's so much jobs out there. You want to DoorDash? Like, you should lose your job and have so much more coming to you. You ruined someone's life. Now you should suffer consequences as well,
Yeah, and then looking at it, it's like if she did that to one person while being a DoorDash, like, Can you imagine how many other people she has secretly filmed when she goes to deliver stuff?
Yeah.
Like, that's completely crazy. And going back to what Gabe said, that there needs to be an intent to harm. What exactly are we stating as the definition of harm? Because in this case, there was an intent to harm his image, because she pretty much posted like public nudity, right? She like trespassed and all that, and that's like a type of harm, right? But what type of harm is exactly stated in order for defamation to actually continue? Because there's mental, emotional, and physical, and this one right here, it was pretty much like, you know,
All of the above.
Yeah.
And even to add like financial too, like I'm sure like for him to sue, like not having a job is crazy as it is, and he has to go out his way, go to court and sue her when he just lost his job. Like, what if he doesn't have the money to find representation himself, and even just paying the court fees, you know?
Yeah.
And then it's not only like just this, because this is just an example of one that kind of like spiraled into this viral post. All across like social media, there are people just posting like even smaller videos and stuff like this of just people and things like this. So like at the high school level, people just like start taking videos of people like doing something weird, and then they post it, and then these people's like are seen as like the weird kid, or like the kid that they did this. And it's like, even though that's not on like a court level where it has to be brought to court, their reputations in school is still like affected, and it's like that should still be punished, where it's like, oh hey, I found this guy, or I recorded this person doing this, and then they give like a lie about it, so they're like falsely lying about something they're doing when it's taken out of context completely. And because of this, people can be like, they can lose friends and even possibly family over this type of thing. And like on a smaller level, those should also be punished, because at that age you're kind of like still growing up, and being falsely accused of something you didn't do can be pretty harmful to your health and emotional, like it could have a lot of emotional damage, which could make them like, you know, commit suicide or do something like that. And that kind of like brings up the idea of like, how should these be not charged, but like punished? Because on a smaller level, they can't really charge unless it's like a super big one, like the case we were just talking about for a while. So yeah, did you guys have any more ideas, or I think we're all good?
Yeah.
All right, it looks like that's all we have for today, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Again, I'm Gabe, this is Monica, this is Hannah, and this was Ramsey, and thank you guys so much for watching.
If you are interested in a career in sports broadcasting,
whether you're commentating a live game
or hosting your own TV show,
for more information, contact Greg Poff. That's me at solano.edu.
we hope to see you here next semester. And remember,
it's more than just sports, it's an education.